If you love me, please don't judge me. Got my hands tied, the power's above me. Don't shoot the messenger, I'm just a puppet here. If you wanna place blame, then look to the puppeteer. Family, fortune, envy, jealousy, privilege, passed on, legacy, secret, sabotage, borderline, felony, suicide, subtract, selfish, pedigree, yeah.
How's it going, everybody? It's C-RadTV back here in our video. So, of course, it's time to continue on to What If NASCAR Had the F1 Points Format series. So, the last time in this series, we started taking a look at the NASCAR Mexico series in the 2000s as far back as we possibly could. And we learned that nothing would change under the F1 Points format in the Mexico series in those 2 years we looked at in the 2000s. And in this part, as quickly as it began, we will wrap up the Mexico series branch of this What If series by taking a look at the Mexico series in the 2010s, current to almost present day, to see what would have changed and what would have stayed the same if NASCAR Mexico series used the F1 Points format. So yeah, anyway, before we continue on, though, let me, of course, mention that make sure to also check out my NASCAR with F1 Points Twitter and Instagram pages, the official pages for it, for exclusive NASCAR at F1 Points content. I always post content there daily, so if you want to go check those out, make sure you go for it. But yeah, anyway, and also quick disclaimer, I might pronounce a few of these names wrong. I'll try to do it the best I possibly can, because I really cannot speak Spanish worth the shit to save my life, so bear with me. But yeah, anyway, continuing on, though, on the screen, of course, is the points format we're going to be using, which is the current F1 Points format. And like I mentioned a couple of times with other videos we did in the 2010s, we are not going to be doing the double points for 2014, because double points is a stupid and dumb gimmick that manufactures drama, and I'm not doing that crap. And I'm not doing the fastest lap point for 2019 on, because NASCAR does a terrible job of keeping track of the fastest lap bonus point. So, yeah. And before we continue on, let me once again stress out that this is just a hypothetical scenario. I know everyone would have raced differently had they used the F1 Points format. This is just for fun. So now with that out of the way, let's go ahead and let's jump right into it. So for the 2010 season, we had 4 drivers separate themselves from the rest of the field, and those 4 being Germán Quiroga, Romero Richards, Rafael Martinez, and Antonio Perez. Those 4 were the class of the field all year in terms of speed and consistency. In the end, though, Rafael Martinez, Romero Richards, and Antonio Perez would all fail to be consistent in key moments of the season when it mattered the most, and Germán Quiroga would take full advantage of him with pole way late in the season, and Germán Quiroga would lock up the championship with a race to go in the season. So Germán Quiroga would still be the 2010 champion under this format. So the 2011 season, it would be a 2-man battle for the championship between Germán Quiroga and Romero Richards. Those 2 were the class of the field all year in terms of speed and consistency. But in the end, Romero Richards would fail to be consistent in key moments of the year when it mattered the most, and Germán Quiroga would take full advantage of him with pull way late in the season, getting hot at the right time. And Germán Quiroga would lock up the championship with a race to go in the season. So Germán Quiroga, despite looking like it was going to be Romero's title to lose, Romero would collapse late in the year, and Germán would pull a comeback and lock up the title with a race to go. So under this format, Germán Quiroga would still go back-to-back in 2011. Before we jump into the 2012 season, I just do want to mention that there was a small mistake for 2011. Actually, 2011, Germán Quiroga would complete a 3-peat, as Quiroga also won the title in 2009, so 2009 through 2011, Germán Quiroga would win 3 titles in a row under the F1 Points format like he did in real life. But yeah, anyway, just thought I'd mention that mistake real quick. I didn't check my notes before recording that, so my mistake. I'm human. I make mistakes at the end of the day. But yeah, anyway, going on to 2012 season. So the 2012 season, we would have a 3-man battle for the championship between Jorge Getters, Romero Richards, and Daniel Suarez. Those three were the class of the field all year in terms of speed and consistency. In the end, Homero Richards would fail to be consistent in key moments of the year when it mattered the most, and he would be eliminated with around a race or two to go in the season. So in the end, the championship will go all the way down to the season finale at Autodromo in Mexico City, with Getters entering with a with Suarez entering with a 1-point lead over Jorge Getters. So in this situation, whoever finished ahead of the other would win the championship, depending on how many points they could score. So in the season finale at Autodromo, Daniel Suarez would get involved in an incident. He would finish around in 25th, 4 laps down. So he would not score any points. So for Jorge Getters to win the championship, he would have to finish at least 9th or better to win the title. In the end, Jorge would do just enough of that, but as Jorge would finish 8th in the season finale at Autodromo, and that 8th place finish would be more than enough for Jorge Getters to win the 2012 championship by 3 points over Daniel Suarez. So Jorge Getters would still win the 2012 Mexico championship under this format. So for the 2013 season, it was one of those weird seasons where there wasn't a clear-cut dominant driver all year. There were a number of different drivers you could have made a case for the championship, but in the end, 5 names separated themselves from the rest of the field. Those 5 being Rodrigo Peralta, Daniel Suarez, Ruben Pardo, Antonio Perez, and Rafael Martinez, as those 5 were the class of the year all year in speed and consistency and broke away from the rest of the field. In the end, though, Daniel Suarez, Rodrigo Peralta, Rafael Martinez, and Ruben Pardo all failed to be consistent in key moments of the season when it mattered the most, and Antonio Perez would take advantage of it and pull away late in the season, and Antonio Perez would lock up the championship with a race to go in the season. So Antonio Perez would win the 2013 Mexico Series championship under this format. So the 2014 season, it was a 2-man battle for the championship between Antonio Perez and Daniel Suarez. Those two were the class of the field all year in terms of speed and consistency and broke away from the field. In the end, though, Antonio Perez would fail to be consistent in key moments of the season when it mattered the most, and Daniel Suarez would take full advantage of him with pull away late in the season, and Daniel Suarez would lock up the championship with a race to go in the season. So Daniel Suarez would be the 2014 Mexico Series champion under this format before he goes to NASCAR. So for the 2015 season, we would have 4 drivers separate themselves from the rest of the field, and those 4 being Ruben Garcia Jr., Ruben Rovello, Erwin Vence, and Rubens Pardo. Those 4 were the class of the field all year in terms of speed and consistency. In the end, though, Erwin Vence, Ruben Garcia Jr., and Rubens Pardo would all fail to be consistent in key moments of the year when it mattered the most. And Ruben Rovello would take advantage of it and would pull away late in the season. And Ruben Rovello would lock up the championship with a race to go in the season. So Ruben Rovello would be the 2015 Mexico Series champion under this format. So for the 2016 season, there was no season for the Mexico Series since Mexican Motorsports wanted to put all their focus and attention on the 2016 F1 race at Autodromo, the Mexican Grand Prix. So the Mexico Series was inactive in 2016 because Mexico treats that F1 race in Mexico like a national holiday, and especially that year in 2016 when he had a very close championship battle taking place between Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg. So it made sense. So for the 2016 Mexico Series, there was no champion and no season due to the F1 race at Autodromo in Mexico City for the Mexican GP. So, hey, when you look at how the atmosphere is for that race, it makes sense that it is kind of treated like a national holiday because that's a really great atmosphere, especially from all the F1 races from Mexico that I've watched. So it's a really good atmosphere. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and we'll skip right to 2017. So for the 2017 series, the Mexico series would make a grand return after taking a year off for the F1 race. And in the 2017 season, we would have a two-man battle for the championship between Abraham Calderon and Ruben Rovello, as those two were the class of the field all year in terms of speed and consistency. But in the end, Ruben Rovello would fail to be consistent in key moments of the year when it mattered the most, and Abraham Calderon would take advantage of pole late in the season, and Abraham Calderon would lock up the championship with a race to go in the season. So Abraham Calderon would still be the 2017 Mexico Series champion under this format. So for the 2018 season, we would have 4 drivers separate themselves from the rest of the field, and those 4 being Ruben Garcia Jr., Erwin Vence, Ruben Rovello, and Abraham Calderon, as those 4 were the class of the field all year in terms of speed and consistency. In the end, though, Ruben Rovello and Abraham Calderon were all failed to be consistent in key moments of the year when it mattered the most, and both of them would be eliminated with around a race and 2 races to go respectively. So in the end, the championship will go all the way down to the season finale at Autodromo in Mexico City, with Erwin Vence entering with a 4-point lead over Ruben Garcia Jr. So it was a very close title fight between the two. So in the end, whoever finished ahead of the other would end up winning the title, depending on where they finished and how many points they scored. So in the season finale at Autodromo, both Vence and Garcia Jr. ran around top 10, top 5 most of the race. In the end, though, Ruben Garcia Jr. would finish in 8th, while Erwin Vence, he would do everything he would need to lock up the title, as Vence would finish in 4th. And that 4th place finish would be more than enough for Erwin Vence to win the title by 12 points over Ruben Garcia Jr. So Erwin Vence would be the 2018 Mexico Series champion under this format. So the 2019 season, we would have 4 drivers separate themselves from the rest of the field, and those 4 being Ruben Garcia Jr., Salvador de Alba Jr., Erwin Vence, and Ruben Rovello, as those 4 were the class of the field all year in terms of speed and consistency. In the end, though, Erwin Vence, Salvador de Alba Jr., and Ruben Rovello would all fail to be consistent in key moments of the year when it mattered the most, and Ruben Garcia Jr. would take full advantage of him with pole late in the year, and Ruben Garcia Jr. would lock up the championship with a race to go in the season. So Ruben Garcia Jr. would still be the 2019 Mexico Series champion under this format. Now, Erwin Vence would have a solid season finale and would gain a few points on Garcia Jr. in the finale at Autodromo, but all that did was just make the championship look a little closer than it actually was. But yeah, anyway, that's going to wrap it up here for this part of the What If series. So yeah, quite a few things would have happened for sure in the Mexico series in the 2010s under the F1 points format. Like in terms of championship battles that went down to the season finale, we only had 2 title fights go down to the season finale. And we had 4 title changes under the F1 points format, and those taking place in 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2018. So quite a few things would have changed for sure under the F1 points format in the Mexico series in the 2010s. And under the F1 points format, we also know that it would be very rare to see the championship go down to the season finale, as from 2008 to 2019, we only had 3 title fights go down to the season finale. So it's very rare. So it's kind of like F1 in real life, where it's very rare to see the championship go all the way down to the finale, but when it does, it leads to some special moments. But yeah, anyway, that'll wrap it up here for the Mexico series, part of this What If series. And we will be revisiting the Mexico series, of course, and for 2020 and for the 2021 seasons. And I'm also going to revisit it sometime in 2022 when I try and get some of those lost seasons that I didn't get. So yeah, you got that to look forward to sometime in 2022. So the next time on the What If series, we're going to tackle the NASCAR Euro series up in Europe. and now will be one of the last videos we do before we jump into the 2020 series. And so yeah, we're almost close to the end of Phase 3. So yeah, anyway, that'll wrap it up here. That's all I gotta say. On all, and the Euro series parts of the What If series, that all comes out depending on how fast I make it and do my research and all that. So yeah, anyway, that'll wrap it up here. That's all I gotta say. Hope everyone's a great day, and I'll see you on whatever I make next. Peace.